Hey everybody, this is Clint Hoekstra. I'm here for the Keep Times. There's an election in Edmonton coming up on October 18th, and I'm here with Kim Krushell. She's running for mayor. How are you today?
I am good. How are you doing?
Not so bad. So I guess I'll get right to the point. The biggest topic, I think, from a lot of Edmontonians right now would be homelessness. What do you think, as a mayor, you could do to help the homeless in Edmonton?
Well, certainly I have presented a very comprehensive plan. I'm the only candidate actually that's presented a comprehensive plan with homelessness as part of the discussion. You can check that out on my city website at KrushellforMayor.com. But I think the first thing that we need to do is recognize that we have people who are homeless from various different sectors. So we have, people without homes who are suffering from trauma, mental illness, and they are also experiencing substance use. Then we have folks who are ready to transition and they need different types of supports. And then we have people who are students using the food bank right now because they don't have enough money because tuition's so expensive. So you've got that, and then you've got seniors who right now are, unfortunately through fixed income, are also finding themselves without a home. And so what we need to do is take a collaborative approach with our agencies. And I like what, for example, C5 has been doing. It's a group made up of Boyle Street, Mennonite Center, Edmonton Food Bank. They have been collaborating together and taking an outcome-based methodology approach where they realized that there was a need for helping folks that were in Northeast Edmonton, because we have people who are without homes throughout Edmonton, and we have people who are needing help throughout the city, and yet our services are being concentrated in one location. So they opened a hub in Northeast Edmonton. They've been helping to feed 2,200 people by working with the private sector. So they've partnered with Sobeys up there and TNT, and they're feeding 2,200 people. That's the type of approach where I think we need to bring, the not-for-profits together, fund them based on collaborative models, make sure that we're getting the outcomes and making a real difference, not just, talking about homelessness. And then we need to make sure that we target the supports. So when it comes to those people that are suffering from trauma and substance use, this is a health issue. We need to be pushing then for dollars on the health side. And they need wraparound services. So we need to focus on making sure that that's available.
Of the different positions you've held, what do you think, which one do you think would be the greatest asset to your position as mayor?
I think that it's actually the totality of the experience that I bring that differentiates me from the other candidates. I mean, I was an executive assistant to a former city councillor where I learned how to navigate the bureaucracy and solve people's problems every day because I was on the front lines. And then, of course, in 2004, I ran for city council and was elected and represented north of the river because that's where I live, whereas when I was in EA, I was south of the river. So I got to really learn about the different challenges around the city of Edmonton. But I also got a lot of things done when I was on council from understanding how the city works. So for example, neighborhood renewal. That was a long-term play that I really worked hard to get support from city administration and the councillors. And that program, when I worked for the former city councillor, we were only fixing one neighborhood in our city. Well, if we wanted to revitalize our core, the neighborhoods around the downtown, we needed something far more robust. And so, the neighborhood renewal program was a dedicated tax for 10 years. But today, I've been out of politics for 8 years. Today, I'm proud to say that that program has fixed 237 of the 300 targeted neighborhoods in Edmonton and has revitalized the core, which helps us revitalize our downtown. So that's the type of thinking that I bring. And then having been out and focusing, on family and then getting into the tech sector, because I have started 2 tech companies from scratch, I really got to experience the innovation sector and what it's like to be an entrepreneur and how sometimes the city can get in the way instead of helping get things done. And I think that perspective really rounds out what I can contribute as a leader and has really taught me about, again, more on the empowerment side. I mean, I've always been a collaborator, But I think it's those leadership skills that position me to make a real difference if elected as our next mayor of Edmonton.
You mentioned the tech industry. If you had any advice for Edmontonian tech entrepreneurs right now, what would it be?
Well, I think first of all, don't be afraid to fail. You know, anybody who spends time in Silicon Valley will quickly hear that people talk about, you know, their failures, that they actually kind of, it's almost like a badge of pride. And you learn by failing. And the younger you are and you start on that journey, you know, the more failures, you're going to get wins. And you need to persevere. And so that would be my first piece of advice.
Fair enough. And so regarding long-term projects, right now the city is in the midst of a massive upgrade of the LRT system. What do you think will be your priorities as mayor regarding that system?
Well, I mean, if you look at my track record, I was a big proponent for LRT. In fact, I was the councillor who really pushed hard to decommission our old trolley bus system because it was inefficient, it was actually costing us money, it was taking money from LRT. So, got that support and decommissioned in 2007, and then I fought very hard to start getting the South LRTs because we had sunk all of our money into the underground system and we hadn't been building our LRT anywhere. So it was the council of 2004 that actually started bringing LRT back in Edmonton, and today you see the lines. Now, going forward, I certainly feel that we need to make sure that on the West LRT line, this council's locked us into a contract, but the challenge that we have is we don't have a rail car deal for the LRT line. So our next mayor and council is going to need to focus on making sure we get this thing built on time, on budget, and that we get a rail car deal. Because it's not going to help us if we're building the train tracks and we don't have the train, so to speak. So that's critical. Certainly the line to Northwest, which that will stay, and that would always stay in that particular direction, and that would be another one to get moving on. But obviously we will see with COVID where we have the dollars and what we're looking at, but the West will be the top priority. In terms of our new transit rollout, I'm happy that we're finally getting a one-card system. You know, many people don't know this, but I actually met Don Iveson when I was elected in 2004, when I was asked by the mayor back then, Stephen Mandel, to negotiate the universal bus pass system, the university system. Mm-hmm. So it was Don that was working for the Students' Union who was on the other side of the negotiating table when we developed, and I negotiated with the city on the UPass, which today I think has been pretty successful.
Yeah, definitely. I can speak to that.
I thought we'd have a one-card system much sooner than we're getting it, but I am excited that we are getting one and that it's going to be regional.
And this is the ARC card?
It's being, it is. It's being piloted at the universities right now, it's my understanding. So I really want to see it. I haven't obviously seen it, but I think that we need a one-card system. It's easier for everybody. It also makes it safer for transit drivers. Mm-hmm. The other thing that we need to do is just review our new transit rollout and make sure that we are serving the population that we need to serve in terms of access and getting to where they need to go, whether it's university or work. And I am hearing concerns and have been working with people to address some of the challenges of the on-demand service. The fact that they're not actually being covered. So North Edmonton, you have huge gaps. So I'm not sure overall, but it's something that we need to review. It is brand new, so hopefully we can just tweak it, but that is something we need to look at. And then we need to look at what we can do more with the region.
So last week saw Edmonton, or Canada's inaugural Day of Truth and Reconciliation.
Yeah.
What do you think you can do for Indigenous people in Edmonton?
Well, I've been meeting with a number of people who are in the Indigenous community, as well as Indigenous bands and organizations, and I think the first thing we need to do is treat them with respect and dignity, and we need to listen to what their ideas are. It's oftentimes, politicians and bureaucracy in general will say we have a better idea, and I think we need to turn that around. What I've heard that is of interest to some of these organizations is the idea of an urban reserve when it comes to land. Certainly Rossdale has come up, and the city's put a lot of money into Rossdale. That might be an approach that we take is to turn that into an urban reserve. But again, there's going to need to be a lot of work on what does that look like, how do we make that work. But I think it's something to definitely look at, and I talk about that. The other thing that we need to do is an education piece. I think people need to realize, and I think there is a lot of that now because people are learning about the TRC, they're learning about what happened to Indigenous people in this country. But I think that there's an opportunity for us to really highlight that, especially in the school systems. And I talked to a group yesterday that thought that that was an interesting idea. I don't know if we do the same thing that like in the past when I was on council. I worked with the City of Edmonton Youth Council, and we did an art contest, if you can imagine, in all the school systems, public, Catholic, and Francophone, on homelessness. And we did a brochure, which was an art contest, and we had prizes, and the art that we got from it was amazing. But it was challenging kids K to 12 on the issue of homelessness, and really having in the brochure information on, you know, anybody can be without a home. It can happen to anyone. I know when I was a kid, I mean, my mom and my stepdad, he got a lawyer and she got emotional. She was in a divorce situation. She left the home. So I didn't experience full not having a home. We found a place, but I did get to experience what it's like to be without and how tough it can be. My mom had the house clean, and then, you know, I'm super proud of her. She went back to school and was able to become a teacher. But that experience and lived experience does make me empathize and realize that there's a lot of people that need consideration. And I think when it comes to the Indigenous, you know, I can't imagine what it'd be like if someone took my son away from me.
Yeah, it's just unimaginable.
Well, it's visceral.
Yeah.
It makes you really think.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you talk about that? So I think we need to be real.
Yeah.
We need to be respectful.
Ready to listen.
And ready to listen.
For sure.
And I'm prepared to do that.
Cool. So you mentioned students. So there are tens of thousands of university students among the two major schools in this city and all the other smaller colleges.
Yeah.
Do you have a message to those students?
Yes. I think that obviously in my plan I talk a lot about positioning Edmonton for jobs and opportunity for young people. When I was on City Council, I was pretty passionate about youth initiatives, from the City of Edmonton Youth Council to creating Edmonton's Next Gen, to obviously working on the UPass. I think that jobs and opportunity for young people are the most critical. I know that there's a lot of fear out there from young people. I have a 21-year-old, so I get to hear a lot about climate change and his concerns around that, which is critical. I'm rolling that out today, but also jobs and opportunity. And so I talk about the need for us to position ourselves as one of the top 5 cities for innovation in Canada, and one of the top 100 globally within a decade. And that's not unrealistic. I'm modeling that off of what Austin, Texas has done. And yes, there's summer and we're winter, but there's a lot of similarities between us. And
Economy, particularly.
exactly. And so I see real opportunity there. And I know, you know, through a volunteer group we started called Bar Tech, I literally had a barbecue in my backyard, took 11 tech companies. As founders of tech companies, we got investors to check out these companies, and then we got media to focus on them. And through that, we had more tech companies actually make it into the top 10 in NASA Ignite the Night events in the US than any city in the world.
Neat.
And that's all volunteer.
Yeah.
So I know that where there's a will, there's a way, because I've seen it. And so what I would like to give a message to young people out there is, you know, there's a lot that Edmonton has to offer. We have a really good quality of life here. You can still afford to get a house, which you can't in some of the other cities in Canada today.
Very true.
And we're going to have a lot of people retiring. There is a change that's happening, and so there will be jobs and opportunity here. And you can also think about opportunities that aren't traditional. There's a lot of people making money off the internet today doing very untraditional things, from gaming to, the other day I saw some website, you know, that was showing how to knit, and this woman had tons of clicks. But I do think that there's opportunity in cybersecurity. There's opportunity for us in industrial, in clean technology. We have opportunity in the ag tech sector. the forestry tech sector, and logistics, and rare earth metals.
Municipally?
Well, rare earth metals is more of a provincial play, but the fact is that you could recycle rare earth metals. We have expertise in recycling. We should at least look at it. And as a regional hub, because that's where you're talking about it, we have incredible expertise, obviously, in making things happen in terms of mining, recycling, wastewater. There's a whole bunch of areas that we have expertise, and we need to play on those.
So the issue of slates has come up recently quite a few times. I've spoken to a lot of candidates about this lately, and they seem concerned about unofficial slates going on. What's your opinion on this topic?
Well, I've been very vocal. I do not like party politics coming into the civic election, and I don't like the idea of slates. And I don't care whether it's left, right, blue, purple, it doesn't really matter. What matters to me is that our civic government is the closest to the people. We need to be accountable and transparent. And when you have party politics coming in, they make ideological decisions instead of common sense decisions. And when you let party lens be everything, then you don't think outside the box. And the most critical thing your next mayor needs to do is build that team. And you want people to have different ideas and coming from different backgrounds. When we look at our boards and you look at corporations today, they're looking for diversity for a reason. It's because it gives you different perspectives that can help that corporation. Same thing applies when it comes to what's happening today with our politics. And so city politics is designed as the mayor has one vote. Your council all has one vote.
Yeah, not an accident.
It's not an accident. And so by design, we need to do that. So no, I'm not a fan of slates, and I'm also not a fan of what I've been talking about in the media recently, which is we have a third-party advertiser that's trying to influence the election. And that's also concerning because they've raised, upwards of up to $70,000, and they are collecting get out the vote information, and they are suggesting to voters out there candidates depending on where you're located, and I don't think that that's right.
Yeah, that's almost like a municipal form of a PAC.
Well, these aren't PACs.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I didn't grow up here. I grew up in the U.S. I majored in political campaigning in the States. And if there's one thing I am very against, it's political action committees.
Yeah, they've pretty much ruined that country.
They've destroyed politics in the United States.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I believe in representative democracy. The rise of populism is not going to help our future.
Oh, yeah.
So I am standing up for representative democracy, and I will tell you, political action committees actually create populism, which can lead to dictatorships, which doesn't give us the kind of democracy and freedoms that we're used to having.
Couldn't agree more. Do you have any final message for the voters of Edmonton?
I think one of the things I want to get across to people is I know people out there are like, okay, well, I've got a candidate on the far right, one on the left. So you get this group think of, well, I want to make sure if I don't get this one, then I vote, and vice versa. What I'd like to send the message out is vote for something. Look at the platforms. Voting is critical. On October 18th, your vote actually does matter. And I think your generation more than ever is beginning to realize that. And so I really encourage you to vote for who you think can actually do the best job. And what I'm trying to argue is a vote for me is a vote for Edmonton.
Cool. Well, thanks for having us in your office today.
Thank you for being here. I've kept this on the whole time because I guess we have to, but
Part of the world today.
it is.
Yeah. And everybody, get out on October 18th and vote. Peace.